Subscribe to WROK on YouTube and never miss a meeting.
Hey everyone, I apologize for the delay. We had a closed session that ran a little bit over. I'm going to be the chair tonight as the mayor's out of town on a work trip. So I'm going to call to order the September 12th meeting of the Royal Oak City Commission. We'll begin with the invocation given by Commissioner Dubak, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you're able.
As we gather this evening, the day after the 21st anniversary of the attacks of September 11th, to govern our city and make decisions about our shared future, let's take a moment to be thankful for the ability to do so. To be thankful for the opportunity to speak and be heard, thankful for the ability to choose our leaders, thankful for those who protect and serve our community with honor every day, thankful for all the staff who labor every day in the all too often unseen and thankless work of running this city. Thankful for the privilege of discussing and debating the things we will tonight while taking for granted much of what truly matters. Thankful for all those who spoke up, marched, fought, or died to make this all possible. Thankful for each other, for all those who feel personally invested in our shared future and compelled to take time to be a part of it, even when we disagree, especially when we disagree. Thankful to live in a community which, despite those disagreements, is truly, undeniably a wonderful place to live. I'm thankful to be here with you all tonight. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner DeBuck. Getting started today with the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Colo. Second by Commissioner Douglas. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, we have an agenda, and now we'll get to public comment. So the City Commission values and relies on the input of our fellow citizens to make decisions. Now is the time set aside for the public to address the City Commission on any city-related issues, both on the agenda and not. As there are no public hearings scheduled for tonight's meeting, this will be the only time for the public to address the City Commission. I ask that comments be directed to the City Commission as a whole and not individual commissioners. If you wish to speak tonight at public comment, please wait until recognized by me, then come to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record. Be mindful the City Commission wants to hear from everyone who wishes to speak, and comments are limited to 3 minutes or less. There's a timer at the podium to help you keep track of your allotted time, and also an annoying dinging that happens after 3 minutes have passed. If you do not wish to speak tonight, please don't hesitate at any time to email or call the City Commission with your comments. The City Commission will not respond directly to questions, but we are taking notes, as is the City Manager, and we will address questions when the agenda topic is discussed or refer it to the proper City Department. Okay, let's go. Mr. Thompson?
Good evening. Mike Thompson, 1210 Irving, Royal Oak, head of the Lawson Park Homeowners Association. We've got a group here in the back corner, and we'd like to speak one after another if possible. So we want to talk about Lawson Park. This park is amazing. Thank you for the funding. Thank you for the design and the recreation department, the subcommittees. It's got all the bells and whistles, and it's being used, and it's great to see a community use like this. As a destination park, it doesn't quite work. It's missing some things. There's some imbalance with our community and the surrounding area that we'd like to point out, or concerns, and try to find some solutions. So we weren't aware that the canopy would be rented in the early planning stages. So because of that, the recreation department has put a porta-john in the park across from Longfellow. That's very objectionable. Of all the parks that the city rents canopies, there's 5 of them total. 4 out of 5 have permanent restrooms, brick and mortar. This is the only one that the city rents that doesn't have that type of facility. So it's very objectionable to us, the look of it, the other things about it. And the other thing is, if this truly is a destination park, which it's partially is, the parking has been a rub with the neighborhood too, that it's very inconvenient and it's much more aggravating for the folks that live around the park as well. And the park was never fully completed, the construction with Warren contractors. And I know the city and folks are working very hard to push that contractor to finish their work. So, and John Fideli's been good working with and pushing some things forward. So tonight we're here to go up the path or a little bit higher to ask city leadership if you can step in and you can get that porta potty out of there and stop renting the canopy. Now, if it really needs to be a destination park and it's part of our recreation program and bringing in other communities to use Royal Oak, and it's a great thing, and public relations, it's missing some pieces. Destination parks need to have things that for folks that stay longer. So they have to have shade, furnishings, parking, restrooms. This has a lot of that, but it's a little 4-acre park surrounded by houses. So it's one or the other. Either stop renting the canopy, please, get rid of the Porta-John right away, or have plans for a true destination park with all the required amenities. And with that, thank you. We've got a group to speak as well. So,
Someone else from Lawson Park?
Scott Langdorf, 1202 Irving Avenue. From the very beginning, the neighborhood did not want the renovation to make Lawson Park a destination park. That is why the neighbors did not want additional parking included in the plans in order to maintain the park as a neighborhood park. Renting the pavilion was never part of the plan to renovate the park, at least that was shared with us. With a budget of $1.2 million, why wasn't a rented pavilion with a restroom with running water included in the plan? Was it a lack of planning or deliberate lack of transparency on the part of city planners? Hopefully neither is the case. I'm guessing someone made a last-minute arbitrary decision to rent the pavilion. With that in mind, the solution would be to remove the unneeded Porta-John. For over 40 years, I've taken my children and now my grandchildren to Lawson Park. So no porta potty has been necessary for 40 years. For several weeks, after the city started renting the pavilion, there was no Porta-John located in the park. So apparently there is no requirement that a restroom or Porta-John be available in order to rent a pavilion. If the city thinks a tacky Porta-John right in front of residents is okay, that is wrong. When we asked if the Porta-John could be moved to the center of the park, away from the residences, Superintendent John Fideli cited safety concerns as the reason that Porta-John had to be next to the street as opposed to the center of the park. He said it was not safe with children around for the truck to drive into the park center to service the Porta-John. Yet just several miles up the road at Whittier Park, there is a Porta-John located in the center of the park, far from the streets. Is the superintendent not concerned for the safety of the children in the Whittier Park neighborhood? Or is he just making excuses in order to ignore the request of the Lawson Park neighbors? My understanding is the Porta-John was moved to the center of Whittier Park at the request of the surrounding neighbors. If the city insists on renting the pavilion, then the city should do right by building a restroom with running water and provide adequate parking for the parties that motor into the neighborhood. Without exception, all the other parks in the city of Royal Oak with rental pavilions have restrooms with running water and parking. Lawson Park should not be shortchanged because of a last-minute arbitrary decision that goes against the wishes of the neighborhood. Please listen to the neighborhood and help us. Please take action to remove the Porta-John and stop renting the pavilion, at least until a restroom with running water and adequate parking for the motoring visitors are provided. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Langdorf.
I am Josh Fisher, 1307 Longfellow. My house faces the park, and my house is actually one of the handful of houses that the Porta-John's directly in front of. I measured it at 75 feet, which is, I also came in here and measured before the thing. That's about right to those green couches from my front door. I can smell it, not all the time, but when it was being pumped a couple weeks ago, I had my windows open, my whole lower level of my house smelled like it. As an illustration, I mean, besides the fact that it's ridiculous, and I think if any of you guys wanted to take 5 minutes just to drive by, I think all of you will agree it's ridiculous. If there were houses across, if my house didn't face a park and there was houses, it's within the setback. So if there was houses there and somebody wanted to build a beautiful home, they couldn't even put their beautiful home that close to the road. Someone already mentioned the pumping issue and the fact that the truck can't drive on the park. I've seen it being pumped. The truck actually does drive right into the park and pumps the outhouse where it is right now. So I think that's it's not true. And another resident said that they saw the Whittier Park outhouse being pumped, and they had driven right into the park. And I don't really see that to be a big problem, but we really would like it removed. We don't think it belongs in the park. It's an eyesore. I heard that the play structure was around $680,000, which is, and it's I've never seen a play structure like that. I mean, it's amazing. The fact that with $1.3 million in block grant money, that they couldn't have, if they wanted to do this. And I'm a general contractor, and I had my estimator put together some numbers for what would be a brick and mortar single bathroom there, and it's about $40,000. I don't see why that couldn't have been fit in if that's what the intent of the park would be. A few others, I'm not going to get into the crowds and the issues because some other people mentioned it, but as far as it being a destination park, people had already voiced their concerns about that just because it's a 4-acre park, it's surrounded by homes. The crowds everyone's been cooperative, but the volume of people has had a big impact just between garbage and the parking. And it's really, for a tiny park like this, and I know we can't make people go away, we can't tell people they can't come to the park, but if there's anything the city can do just to mitigate the volumes of people coming in. And I do think that not renting the pavilion out would be one of those, but I leave the city to think of other ideas, but it really is, it's drawing people from, and I didn't know this, I first thought that, I'm like, where are these people coming from? How do they know? I guess it's all over the internet. There's mom blogs and things like that. People are coming from Tri-County area to come see this awesome structure. So I just would ask that the commission take those things into consideration as far as the surrounding homes go, and try to mitigate the crowds and hopefully get the Porta-John out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
My name is Ted Strunk, and I live at 727 Golf here in Royal Oak. My remarks have to do with the Jonah project on 11 Mile in Maine. At the commission meeting of May 23rd, Mr. Jonah and his lawyer and his architect appeared before you and agreed in public to build a building that would be LEED certified. And I'm wondering, do any of you know if they are in fact following the prescribed procedures to become LEED certified? Do you know if they have submitted their plans to the board that has to approve the plans before they even begin construction? By the looks on your faces, I don't think you do know. Is there something in place within our city government to follow up on that kind of a public commitment? And if there isn't, there should be. I imagine this might be new territory for you all, having a building built with environment and ecological principles in mind, but I think it's very important, and I hope that you will all look into it and check it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strong.
Hi, good evening. My name is James Robnett. I'm at 815 East 4th Street. I'd like to talk about the proposed support for the ice rink, electrical support for the ice rink. First of all, we're absolutely thrilled to see what's happened with Centennial Park. It's an amazing transformation, and of course, we're very, very happy with that. As a resident who enjoys multiple events that happen in the public spaces, I think it would be a great upgrade to have that embedded electrical support, not only for the ice rink, but for other events that would obviously follow. As a performing musician, I look at it as another opportunity for music and other events to be shared more broadly. As a parent, we look forward to sharing the park with our children and our grandchildren. And I think that upgrade to have the in-place electrical support for not only the ice rink, but events to follow would be a fantastic addition to the city structure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Blue checks in the back. Blue plaid in the back. Yep.
Good evening. Denny Kipp, 1219 Longfellow, Royal Oak. We have a great here, we're talking about Lawson Park. We have a great park here at Lawson Park. The best slide around anywhere in the state. Took them months to get that thing built. They had a heck of a time. Now that it's in, it attracts people from all over the place, which is great. But the best thing about that park, in our opinion, is the ball field. My grandsons can go over there and get ground balls hit at them and don't have to worry about a bad hop. That's great. With such a quality park, a gem to our city, the outhouse is an eyesore. It really is. First thing you look at when we come out our front door at 1219 is an outhouse. It's just not right. And that just doesn't represent the quality of our city or the park in any way, form. When you show up to $1 million park and see a $50 outhouse, we got to do something about that. If the city insists on continuing to rent the pavilion, then an actual plumbing building should be built. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dark blue? Yep.
Hello, good evening. My name is Melissa Kruth. I live at 1303 Longfellow Avenue in Royal Oak. When my husband and I purchased our home 12 years ago, we purchased our home for lots of reasons, but the biggest selling point was for the park that was located across the street. We knew that we looked out our front window, we would be greeted with a lovely neighborhood park. We did not have to worry about unmowed lawns, eyesores put up by neighbors, or people who did not mirror the pride in their exterior like my husband and I do. So a great solution was to purchase a home with a park across the street. We never would have thought that we would have had a city that actually was the one that let us down. I want to give you all credit in planning a beautiful upgrade to the park, an upgrade that I was super excited about. If you look back to the minutes of when you all listened to us when the park was being planned, I was that neighbor that did not want the pavilion. But I was also the neighbor that trusted the Royal Oak Parks and Recreation Department, city planning, all of you, and everyone else that had a say in the development of this park. There are aspects of this park that are tremendous, well-designed, and engage all types of people from children to adults. However, there are aspects of the park that were missed and need to be solved, as this new park has led to more problems than improvements. The park is not finished. Therefore, the pavilion should not be opened nor rented. It is an unfinished job. I could stand up here and talk about all the problems, but I know that's not really what you want to hear. So instead, I invite each of you to come to my home and spend 5 minutes on my front lawn or come join me at the park. It would not take long for you to see what has become our new reality. The reality is this. Too many times I can't get out of my driveway because I'm waiting for an Amazon or UPS driver to return to their truck as they're using the porta-john across their route and have parked their truck in the no parking zone at the end of my driveway. Or you come and see the soiled toilet paper that are burrowed amongst my beautiful flowers almost every single day. Or you can have a cup of coffee with me and are not able to see the joy that families are experiencing at the park because I'm completely blocked in my dining room by the porta-john. Or you can sit in my dining room with me when my windows are open to be greeted by the smell that comes with the porta-john. So we've not had our windows open one time since the end of July because of the smell. You can be greeted by seeing little boys who can't reach the porta-john, So their parents advise them it's okay to urinate on the exterior of the porta-john. So unfortunately, the porta-john is all that I can see and enjoy about this new park. I hear the fun, I hear the laughter, but all I can see and smell is the porta-john. I know that it's not the neighbors who are adding to the problem of this park, but rather the people who do not live in the neighborhood who don't take the pride as the local residents do. I'm standing up in front of you to tell you that I do not want the pavilion because I was concerned about the trash, debris, and parking. I was never informed one time that the pavilion also comes with a porta-john situated right in front of my house. So I'm asking each of you to live in our shoes for 5 minutes. I would encourage you to ask yourself, what would you do if I explained to you, what would you do if what I explained to you was your new reality? I guarantee you that if you experience what we experience daily, you'd be using your power as a serving city council member to get that porta-john moved immediately. So please take empathy on us.
Thank you, Ms. Caruth.
Good evening. I'm David Robbins. I live at 1037 Irving. I'm here also with the Lawson Homeowners Association to discuss the park. So we at the Homeowners Association are grateful for the new park facilities. They truly offered something distinct for the neighborhood. And who wouldn't want a slide that's like 2.5 stories high? It's like really, really super cool. We're really, really proud of that. But with our gratitude, we do feel compelled to step forward and voice concerns for items that we see that are potentially preventing the park from going from good to great, and we would like to raise these now and make sure that this park fulfills its promise as a great asset. So during the planning of the park, at the inception of the planning, the residents expressed concern that the park retain characteristics of a residential park and not become a destination park. Therefore, amenities were not really the focus at the time. So the area, while it's unique, is not a metro park, but the current use indicates it's becoming more of a destination, but yet the city and neighborhood are not quite ready for it yet. So the citizens emphasized this at the time when comments were collected for the construction. So we have mounting concerns, and we urge that planning at this stage take place so we can chart a good course and go from good to great with this facility. We also feel if the park is to be rented, that it should be on par with the other parks of running water and a permanent toilet. Parking must also be completed as the streets are really, really narrow, and it's becoming a real headache for residents there now. We have some suggestions on the area for where parking could be put in place, and we'd like to supply those to you. And finally, the grass and gravel have not been completed yet. And so we feel that until the project is done, the area should not be rented. So these issues really need to be addressed and managed appropriately if this is going to become a destination park. So we feel planning is required here, and while we preferred that the pavilion is not rented, we are concerned too that opening a permanent restroom will become a stop for 696 and dispensary traffic. Therefore, we really need to think what we're going to do when we're charting our next step forward, and anticipate any issues as we go. So tonight, residents who live directly have been expressing their concerns with traffic and maintenance and other items, and there are other people here who will join my voice. Again, we're very, very happy to have this facility. It's a great success, but we're here to urge more planning take place so we can raise the bar on this and make this just truly outstanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Mr. Kroll?
Thank you. Nice to see you all. I'm Alan Kroll. I'm here today on behalf of the Royal Oak Chamber of Commerce, which I preside as chairman of the board. We're here today to talk about 8, and the Royal Oak Chamber would like you to know that we're in great support of the electrical component of this. We separate those because we haven't really done the research you've done as far as the rink and a lot of other things, but we look at the park as a great investment, kind of in the center of our city, and really one that you can't do a whole lot without some power source. We were quite nervous about putting in a transformer and a 5-foot metal atrocity in the center of the park or anywhere in the park would have shown, but I think they came up with a great solution. It's not our money, it's the city's, so I'm careful in spending it, but I do think as the park gets more useful, we're going to have more and more need for electric. I think the chamber was fortunate enough to run the summer concert series this year, and we're contracted to do so again next year. we salivated the possibility of having a summer concert in the park and being able to have music flying everywhere. We think we can take it to the next level. We enjoy where we're at. We think it's kind of a nice regional feel right now, but I think moving it to the park would be great, and that would be the power source that we would need. And I think really a couple people playing guitar, so many different things could happen in the park, and it is our central park. So we believe that this would allow. Again, I don't really want to talk much about the skating rink, other than to tell you that as we ask our members what's the most important thing that we can do for them, they say increase foot traffic. Therefore, the chamber and our collective 500 members love anything that will bring more traffic downtown. And I think when you look at the wintertime and the difficulty we had just because of climate and getting people downtown, anything that would bring some crowds down would excite the Chamber of Commerce. I would appreciate you all voting yes on the electric, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Yep.
Hello. My name is Lynette Kipp. I live at 1219 Longfellow, and in December it'll be 40 years that I have lived across from Lawson Park. This is not the first renovation that I've been through, but this one is quite disappointing in the fact that in the beginning, with the input of the residents, we were never ever told that it would be rented. When they reached out to the residents for input for the planning stages, everybody was excited. It sounded wonderful. The reality is that the parking is horrible. We cannot get in and out of our driveway. It is a very skinny, narrow street. It is a small park that is surrounded on all four sides by residences. And I have a 1925 house with a beautiful front porch. When I sit on my front porch now, I see an outhouse, a porta potty, whatever you want to call it. It's horrible. We can smell it. We get toilet paper blowing over in our yard. It's too small to be a destination park. And I really think that the city, the commission, the recreation department needs to rethink renting the pavilion and return the park to a neighborhood park, which is what it has always been. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Kipp. Dark blue against the wall. Oh, me? No, against the wall. Yep.
Nancy.
Sorry, misleading. Oh, it's black.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Nancy Poprowski, 119 Batavia, one block from Lawson Park. A few years ago, our neighborhood got the fantastic news that our dearly loved Lawson Park was getting a facelift, a new play structure, upgraded athletic areas, pavilion, and landscaping. We were also cordially invited to attend and discuss the plans with the city at a meeting. I felt good after the meeting that the renovation plans would respect the neighbors surrounding the park. This would include rules and signage for park rules for the park to hopefully and the public to live by. There is no detailed signage yet. 2 times a week, I get to enjoy the wonderful Royal Oak Jungle Tower, as she calls it, my 4-year-old granddaughter. But as we come to our car, we have to hold our noses from the stench of the porta potty. Such a great job renovating the park, but as you walk into the park, a smelly, ugly, bright blue porta potty greets you. I feel really bad for my neighbors that live just a few yards away. At the original planning meeting, a porta-john was not mentioned in the plans. We also didn't know about the pavilion rental. Facebook and other media posts have brought many people to our neighborhood park. We as neighbors understand that people out of our neighborhood will come. That's a given. But the purpose is for everyone to enjoy in or out of the park. The people that live there deserve and should not be inconvenienced by the stench of a porta potty or renting the pavilion beyond capacity if rented at all. If the residents can't carry on without the park being a daily nuisance, I think we need to rethink these problems. When I take my granddaughter to our wonderful park, we use the restroom before we leave the house. I'm a retired preschool teacher, nanny, mother, aunt, and proud grandmother, and I've taken care of over 400 children in my lifetime and taken them on field trips. Most children refuse to use porta-johns because of their disgusting odor. In my granddaughter's words about porta potties, you've got to be kidding. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borowski. Okay.
I'm going to leave the mask on. I have a cold. It's nothing else. I'm Kevin Dinger. I live at 803 East 4th Street. And I want to talk about item number 8, the electrification program for Centennial Park. I've only lived in Royal Oak for 6 years. For 18 years prior to that, I lived in West Bloomfield. And I never in my life felt part of a community like I have here in Royal Oak. This is an amazing place. I was actually not in favor of the reconstruction of Centennial Park before it happened. And now I find myself there 3 or 4 times a week. I get my coffee in the morning, I get a pastry, and I walk over and I sit in the park, and I enjoy seeing the other people, seeing the community, seeing people get out and enjoy what we've created here in downtown Royal Oak, and I just love it. The electrification would mean that the music series that's currently on Center Street could potentially be relocated into the park area. I'm not an ice skater, so to me, that's a great benefit for people. I'll tell you, Grant Park used to have an ice rink, and people didn't use it because there was no lights, there was no refrigeration system, and it wasn't maintained. If you get places like that, people will use the park year-round. And I just have to tell you, it's so enjoyable to walk through the park any day of the week, especially on weekends, and see people enjoying that community and that the sense of community that we get just from having that park here in town. I'd love to see the concert series move. I've been to, I don't know, more than 50% of the shows this year, and they were outstanding. It would be great to be able to sit on that lawn and have a great view of the band rather than sitting on a street that sometimes is so hot, you know, if you don't take your shoes off. I'm just telling you. Thank you for listening. I please ask that you support item number 8. I don't want to see portable generators. I don't want to hear the noise of the portable generators. If we do some other kind of solution, I think the system will pay for itself in the long run. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sue Gilbert. I'm at 1219 Irving, and I'm here with the Lawson Park Association. Just talking about the park again, when I look at the group of people that have joined us to talk about the park, I see many of my neighbors. I may not know their names, but I recognize them because they walk their dogs. We walk our dogs in the neighborhood regularly, and it's the expectation that we will clean up after our dogs, and we all do, very faithfully. Over the past few weeks, I've seen more soiled diapers, toilet paper, all sorts of detritus from the porta-john floating around the park. I know that Park Services is stressed as far as maintaining all the parks, but this can't go on. It's not fair to the people that are coming to the park as a destination to spend time with their families. It's not fair for the people that are paying to rent the pavilion. And most of all, it's not fair to my neighbors that live on Longfellow that have to face that detritus, those dirty diapers, laying on the grass outside of that outhouse. Porta-john. Again, we clean up after our pets faithfully. I regularly take a plastic bag and clean up any of the other garbage that's strewn on the outskirts of the park, just to maintain that look of the neighborhood. It's important to us, and this porta-john is just not working out well. I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Green?
I'm Joe Hubner. I live at 1028 Longfellow, and I'm here to speak about Lawson Park. Originally, when the planning was going on for the park, I was at that meeting, and in fact was the one that said if there's room for a small pavilion, that would be nice. Never did I dream that they were going to rent it out or had the problems that we're having. I feel like those people in that planning session were not transparent with us at all, and that the structure that came about is like a 3-story structure, which I never dreamed it was going to be that large, because it does attract a lot of people because it's so nice. And that wasn't conveyed by the city planners that were in that meeting. So I just wanted to voice that concern and bring this up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huebner. Yeah, in the back.
Good evening. I'm Ashley Sampson O'Connor. I live at 4344 Arden Place, and I'm here tonight with 4 of my neighbors to follow up on a letter that was sent to our mayor and city commissioners on behalf of the neighbors of Arden Place in regard to the development that's happening by Agri Realty at the site of the former Art Van furniture store. In that letter, we lay out our concerns and suggest options for moving forward, but we haven't found anyone in the city who has responded or been receptive to our concerns at all. And unfortunately, our primary concern is that there was no input from the neighborhood in any of this process. When the property was improved by Art Van in the 1990s, significant public comment was involved. My father-in-law was very involved in it, and he was very proud of how the project turned out. But now that's all going away as the new project comes in. Back then, there was some negotiations around the use of the public easement in exchange for some privacy measures for the neighbors that abut the back of that building. And the change from office to retail, or from retail space to office space didn't receive any type of changes or public comments that we were aware of. Beyond a public parking variance, there was a public parking variance that did come up. And some of my neighbors were able to attend that. We've listened and watched as Agri Realty has taken a literal saw to our property values by installing windows in the back that look into our homes, our bedrooms, our bathrooms, our backyards. And it's very disappointing to see our privacy is valued beyond measure. And we've been forced to sacrifice a lot for the benefits and the whims of this business. Throughout this, the city has maintained that this is all legal. And I'm not here to debate the legalities of that. There are lawyers with whom you can do that. But I'm just here to tell you that this seems very, very wrong. The lack of transparency seems wrong. The lack of input seems wrong. And it seems like there could be a better solution for everyone involved. I haven't spoken to one person outside of the city council or anything like that who doesn't think that this is wrong and this is a problem in our community. And as citizens, we're just exhausted by people who stand behind legalities to avoid doing what's right by citizens. We're tired of listening to people who have power say that they have none and who can't help us. We're very, very frustrated by this project, and we're very frustrated by the transparency. But I'm here tonight because I do think that there is a way for a mutually agreeable solution to come that would be feasible for all parties. But we can't do it without the help of City Council at this point. And my neighbors who are here with me tonight are all reasonable people who are just looking for a workable solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sampson O'Connor.
I would like to leave these pictures and maybe they can be looked at sometime.
Thank you.
Those are a little square, how that little square shows a lot of light, and how small the yard is and how big those windows are going to be. My name is Edith Sebezic, and I live directly behind the Agri project on Woodward Avenue. I'm here to say shame on the city. of Royal Oak, you, the council, the mayor, and whoever else is responsible for allowing this project to infringe on our personal space. I bought this house because there was a privacy wall behind me against the street, not on an alley. The building was complete when I moved in, and I was told that Art Van worked with the neighborhood. I'm told there were rules and variances against putting windows on the back wall. And if there weren't, Art Van was a responsible corporation to understand the privacy of his neighbors. I'm told the building was allowed to be made closer than usual at that point. I would like the city to produce for us the rules that were given to Art Van. Where do we get them? Please show us, the neighbors, that you have acted responsibly. We're very sick about this infringement on our privacy. Did the council or the city ignore decisions that were made to the project, the neighbors against the back of the corporation this time around? I mean, we didn't hear anything. We were not included. We're going to be living in a fishbowl. When you see the windows that I'm showing you are the ones that are directly behind my house. I have a 50-foot space. The local government is supposed to support the citizens. I found out about this project of the windows in our backyard by chance by speaking to the project manager while they were putting up the fence. I reached out to Agri immediately last May, asking them to please come over and take a look and be respectful of us, to be a good neighbor. I asked the mayor to support us and not let these windows be installed. I spoke to Joseph Murphy, asking him to come over into my backyard and take a look. The mayor wrote me back saying, if your neighbor wants to build a garage and it's within the code, there's nothing we can do about it. This is hardly a garage, guys. Shame on him for dismissing our concerns. I have repeatedly tried to reach out to Agri and the city for help. I asked them to put the windows up higher than a standing person. From the workmen out there, they're from about the knee to the top, 10 feet tall. I'm observing from the blueprint a very large window, as you can see. I won't spend time on that. I made exceptions. You guys made exceptions for this company to be short on parking spaces. I definitely wrote to my concerns about that when that came up. The board passed the shortage anyway. The neighborhood does not expect corporate vehicles to be parked on our street. You can't look at our concerns and our properties and our property values. They're going to be in the tank when you have a fishbowl of windows that look in the backyard. Please tell me something that you can responsibly do with this corporation. Etch the glass. I'm sorry, I'm finished. You see where I'm coming from. You'll see our pictures. It's atrocious. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to email this over, and hopefully you'll all read my whole note.
Yeah, you.
Good afternoon. My name's Catherine Nicewonder, and I live at 4302 Arden Place. I'm also one of the neighbors that are affected by this construction on Woodward, the old Art Van building. Now, I agree with most of what my neighbors have said, except for the legality of what's going on. The building at 32301 West Woodward Avenue doesn't comply with the current zoning ordinance. It doesn't meet the 25-foot setback from a public alley. Right now, it's only 20 feet from their property line to our property line. As the current zoning ordinance stands, it's a non-conforming structure and should not be altered without a site plan being submitted, as well as approval after taking into numerous considerations, which also includes the actual effect it has on residential property, as well as property values, and to take into consideration the surrounding area. None of that was done. Agree was essentially given unfettered discretion to modify the building as how they see fit, not without taking consideration of the harm that it's doing to the residential neighborhood. Now, according to the master plan and the intent section of the zoning ordinance, part of what the zoning ordinance is supposed to do is protect the pre-existing interest of neighborhoods, as well as the property, as well as privacy interests of owners of residential neighborhoods. However, what has the city done? We've reached out to you guys asking What can you guys do? Can you ensure that they're actually complying with these ordinances? Yet nothing has been done. So my question is to you, what are you going to do to help us out and actually look out for you guys as constituents?
Thank you. Mr. Ashley?
Good evening. My name is Alan Ashley. I live at Royal Oak Manor. First thing, I'd like to thank the police department and Matt Murray for the Arts Beats and Eats parking around Royal Oak. It helped out quite a bit. Also, you should be getting in the near future an invitation for our grand open house on the 21st. You got one already. I was just making sure. Some people didn't, but I have a little thing. There'll be a small program at around 3:30 for that. I'd just like to go over one thing about Arts Beats and Eats. I thought the layout was quite different this year. Normally we get the rides and the music right in front of us. This year we got playing music and the rides were down by Lafayette, on Lafayette Street. The problem with the music was that if I stood next to you and shouted in your ear 2 inches away, you would not hear me. It was that loud on Friday and Saturday. It was beyond belief. I had residents in our place close their window, turn their air conditioning up full blast, their TV up full blast, and they still couldn't hear anything because it was so loud, and that was on the Main Street side. So next year, I hope that the law will be that they can't raise the music to Metallica on front row at Pine Knob, because that's exactly what it was all weekend long. Between that and CN Railroad with their long train noise, that was really worse than we ever had, because normally we have rides in front of us. This time we had the straight music, which was great, but a little loud for my old ears. About Royal Oak Manor, we have a lot of stuff that was done. We have new generators, a fire suppression system, new cabinets in every department, a completely renovated elevator system, new security new security system. We converted, I don't know if you've been on William Street lately, but all the balconies are enclosed, so we can use them year round. And we are already taking advantage of it on early morning Sunday, having a cup of coffee and reading a book. So I hope to see you all on the 21st for our grand open house. Thank you.
Far back.
Hello, my name is Rob Wright. I live on 1114 Longfellow. I'm here to talk about the Lawson Park. I'll keep this quick because many of the points have already been brought up. I really just think this comes down to being pretty simple. If one of your neighbors put a porta potty in their yard, you would go over and have a talk with them and say, this is not acceptable, we need to come up with another solution. And I don't see how this is any different. The park's been there probably for 100 years, given the age of my house, which is 100 years old. There was never a potty there before, porta potty, so why is it needed now? If it is needed now, why wasn't this discussed in the requirement phase of the project, right? People came to us and asked, what do you want? If they had said, we're going to put a porta potty here, we would have all at that time said no. So it seems like there's a bit of a bait and switch going on in this situation. If it wasn't missed during the requirement phase, we should have been asked before the construction if there was going to be a porta potty there, and we would have been against it. If this is supposed to be a destination park for the city, it makes the city look pretty bad when the first thing you pull up when you're expecting this great park is a porta potty. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Becky Jack-Lois. I live at 4308 Arden Place and about the Art Van building. I'm new to Royal Oak. I've been here 6 years. I love it. When I purchased my property, but to my understanding, when Art Van put that property in, he was not allowed to put windows in the back. That's why he was allowed to do it. So now it's changed, and I'm sure the tax base is awesome, and no one has even looked to see what that building looks like. There's been no communication at all. The windows are 10 feet by 5 feet. There are 7 in her backyard, 7. 7. So you all talk about, well, if you can't put a porta potty up in my yard, but when it comes to a commercial thing, they just seem to have free reign. I don't understand that. I cannot cut my grass until 9 o'clock in the morning. They get to start working at 6:30 in the morning. Call the police, they come, but I still do it. Their lights blare all night. Who is watching this progress? I have no understanding. And if it all happened in your backyard, you would not like it, and this would not be happening. So who's not driving by these windows and thinking, what are they doing? So Art Van, obviously, was kind enough. He put the park in also, and now these people come in. Guess what? It is mind-boggling that the city planning has allowed this. It is appalling. 7 windows. These are 50-foot lots. It's not just a garage or somebody's big brand new house that's going up. It is a corporation that is going to have people in there all day long. It looks down on the houses. So the building is so big, so it's not like I'm looking in your window right now. You are up here and you are looking down with 10-foot windows. They're all across. It's all across the whole back of the building. So why did Art Van can't do it, and why can they do it? So who changed these plannings? Where's the planning commission during this thing? I'm shocked and appalled and just disgusted with it. I wish you all would just drive by and take a look at what we have to look at, because I was thrilled to move to Royal Oak 6 years ago. I love my house. I love my neighborhood. Then I get to look at that, and I didn't care that Art Van was there. Now I care, because it's no longer Art Van, it's this whoever, real estate company or whatever, and they were allowed to put these windows in. Who was watching that? Who was watching that? We never got any communication, but they're in. So I'm hoping you all want to drive by it, talk to the Planning Commission, see what they're doing, because it's ludicrous what's going on. So thank you so much, but I do love Royal Oak.
Thank you. Sorry. No, sorry, Mr. Harrison, I got called on somebody already.
Good evening. My name is Maureen Jenkins, and I reside at 4328 Arden Place. I've owned my home for 38 years. I guess my neighbors have eloquently stated our case and how we feel the city has been neglectful and how this process could have moved forward with no engagement from, and I want you to look at each other. We know it only impacts, just think of you, it only impacts 8 people. I don't think the city really cares about 8 people, but you know what? I pay taxes and I care. So I want you to put on your hat as a taxpayer, as a resident, and looking at your constituents. This is our home. Nobody has engaged us. The noise, because it starts before the policy at 7 in the morning. We have it filmed. We call the police. They can't do anything. We call the city. That's not our property. That's not our problem. Somebody needs to take this as a serious, neglectful part of the process that's going on. We know that the tax dollars being generated once the sales start in that building obviously are more important to the city than our tax dollars. However, I am committed to letting other residents know that this could happen to them. Their concerns are not being heard. Ashley wrote several letters. Edie has communicated. Is there no reason as a business follow-up that a resident of your city does not deserve at least an acknowledgement of a communication that has been sent? In business, I would have been fired if I did not at least acknowledge receipt of a communication within 24 hours. Again, protocol, I think not. And I really would like you all to come and stand in my backyard. Luckily, I'm not getting windows. That doesn't change one thing. I was here during the initial art van one. It was so transparent. They engaged us. This company doesn't care. And by the way, and I'm going to go over for 2 seconds, because the city hasn't been out there, when our power went out, the whole alley is filled with their construction site, and they could not get in to get our trees down. It was on the news. The job done by DTE was awful because they couldn't access the alley in between the building and our homes. I'd like you all to think about it. Come on over for coffee, but we deserve some sort of respect and response. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harrison?
Thank you. Bill Harrison, 2729 Trafford, Royal Oak. Quick comment on the ice rink. I just don't understand why you continue to defy the professional advice from the City Engineering Department, DTE, Motor City Electric. None of you have the technical background to deal with this. I just don't understand what kind of a hold WITS has on you. What I really want to talk about is bikes. I ran out of time last time. Recently, we're hearing a public service message on the radio regarding staying 3 feet away from bikers. We need a public service message to bikers to be advised of proper biking. Bikers should be subject to tickets, as are drivers. They should follow traffic laws, not interfere or impede auto traffic, and have head and tail lights at night. Recently, I've observed a biker going down Main Street. Instead of riding in the bike lane, he was riding right smack on the line that divides the traffic in the bike lane, making it impossible to pass with oncoming traffic and stay 3 feet away from him. 4th and Lafayette between, on 4th Street between Lafayette and the railroad tracks, there was a couple, and I'm talking about not kids, we're talking about people in their 50s, riding eastbound in the lane on 4th Street, and the woman kept looking back and saw I was behind her, and she and her husband were riding smack dab in the middle of the road. There was a biker on Main Street wearing dark clothing, no lights on the bike, and as I turned off of Orchard View onto Main Street, all I could hear were the whiskey voices, "Hey, move over." I didn't see him, couldn't see him. The ones that really grind me are what I call the spandex crowd, where they ride 3 and 4 abreast in a pack, and you can't get around them. Anyway, I would like to hear from the chief to find out what they're doing about this biking problem that we have. And I recognize that in your world you'd like to have us all riding bicycles and buses, but we've got to do something before somebody gets hurt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. In the back in orange. Oh, there's 2 in the back in orange. There's 2 people in 3 in the back in orange.
Rod Niner, 324 Royal. I'm against the use of $500,000 for a downtown ice rink. Royal Oak already has a Lindell ice rink. I would much rather see this money spent fixing Main Street north of 12 Mile. The comment about the bike, the people riding on the lane, well, the edge of the road is so full of crap that if you're a biker, you will know that you can't stand upright in all that crap. I'd be happy if I could even get the city to come and sweep the streets more often so that the tree litter doesn't cause the streets to flood. It just goes down the street and then it plugs the sewer, and then the water backs up for every time it rains. But yeah, you clean the streets how often? Not very often. The city council spent time and effort looking at what to do to help prevent climate change. Now we're going to use electric power for cooling an ice rink. Kind of seems counterintuitive to me. So much for being green. No one wanted a power transfer for the proposed ice rink on City Hall Park property. So the latest idea is to put it on the south side of the library, is what I understand. You can charge the brownfield fees to the library, use their property, and add what's probably most likely a noisy transformer. Why not put that next to the Veterans Monument while you're at it? I'm puzzled at how you can vote on the electrical expense tonight without approving the project first. That seems backwards. I'm disappointed that I read in the Royal Oak Review the mayor discourages staff when they give reasons against an idea. This doesn't seem like a respectful approach for a city elected official. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gittinger?
How's it going, everybody? Jason Gittinger, 2705 Clawson Avenue. Happy to be here. And you know what I'm most happy about tonight? 10 years into the Commission for the Arts, we have two things on the consent agenda this evening, which I think is a big win. That sounds really strange to the people that may not understand what that means, but many years ago, we would have had to sit here and argue about pieces of artwork in the middle of a right-of-way or those kinds of things, and we no longer have to do that. So give yourselves a round of applause for that. Two, our city staff is amazing. I've had some wonderful conversations with them recently, so I'd love those people as well. And the third thing I'd love to address is just the idea of power in the park. Seems like a great idea for us to have things that happen in the park. There's a number of things that can happen with that. Specifically, there was talk earlier about moving concerts and things to the park. I think that could be helped by having some infrastructure in place. So I appreciate you guys creating some cool solutions that could make some of those things happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gittinger. Ms. Wagman? Good evening, Janice Wagman. I'm also confused about the electrical in the park with being separated from the ice rink. I think they should be approved together or not at all. It's over $150,000 and plus whatever Colasanti's charging, and there's no offsetting revenue from a rink at all in this. So, anyways, regarding the millages. First of all, I was shocked on June 13th when the city manager encouraged city employees, commissioners, and/or appointees to use the community engagement process to help you form a yes committee to help you advocate this to the voters. I would be surprised if this isn't a campaign violation according to state laws. Regarding item 9, the proposed informational letter about the millage, it appears to promote voting in favor of the millages because of what's not in it. Number 1, transparency. Why were these proposed? There's no mention of due to overspending, the general fund is going to run out of money unless we, the taxpayers, fix it. We must increase our property taxes or you are going to cut spending on these two items. Number 2, facts. From a letter by Don Johnson to the City Commission regarding the safety millage several years ago, quote, the city was proactive in informing residents and registered voters of the exact needs the city had and how the millage would be spent through website reports, official public meetings, and a direct mailing to all homes with registered voters. Providing the pertinent facts to have an educated electorate was a prudent course of action, and he advocated to continue to do that. This was not done in this circumstance. Number 3, accountability. The bulleted list in the parks portion of the letter are only coulds, not wills. But the roads millage proposal had a list of streets and a timeline, and the schools millage shows what improvements will be made at each school. Without a guaranteed list, there's no accountability. Same issues regarding the $622,000 senior millage that only provides $22,000 more than we're already paying now in our city taxes. Having attended 99% of the senior task force meetings and participated in work group meetings, I know the plan will have goals without established hows, but most importantly, without established costs. To state that various items, including increasing transportation services, would be helped by this millage is disingenuous, to say the least. All that is promised by these millages is less than 20% of the estimated $2.8 million will go towards any improvements. And another guaranteed tax increase for the taxpayers. Finally, I'm all for improving the parks and senior services, and I believe most people in the city agree. However, to the residents listening at home, until they can bring back transparent, accountable, and factual proposals, I urge you to vote no. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Weidman. Yes.
Good evening, everybody. It's Ron Arnold from 1102 Irving Avenue. Real quick here, I also support the removal of the porta potty from Lawson Park and stopping the rental of the pavilion. But just to equal things out, I'd like to add my 2 cents on the ill-advised ice rink that is being considered to be added to the Centennial Commons via the expensive electrical service vote on the agenda tonight. The ice rink is an absolute waste of taxpayer resources and is an understudied proposal, including what appears to require repeated landscaping, installation, and expensive powering required for an ice rink, not once, but twice a year, every year. It's especially important when the ice rink appears to be part of a commercial venture with an unclear commitment for funding and operation. Royal Oak already has a regulation-size ice rink and plenty of parks, and if the city has extra money, that can be targeted for a temporary ice rink. Please vote no on the electrical addition tonight. We don't need industrial level electrification for the other uses discussed tonight, and also no to continuing efforts to add something that doesn't belong in Centennial Commons. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arnold. Mr. Sackett?
Good evening. Changing subject here from hockey to baseball. Mark Sackett, General Manager of the Royal Oak Leprechauns. Just wanted to say thanks again for great summer. John and his crew was awesome. We increased our attendance probably by about 70%. We probably went from 11,000 to about 19,000 people coming to Memorial Park just for our games. Obviously, we had more games, but the first 2 games we had over 1,000 people. Thanks to all the schools that attended, we put over 500 kids in that park, and it was phenomenal. So that was great. Obviously with attendance up, our missions were busy, our food was busy. The farmers market gave us some great support this year with allowing us to help promote our product. The new pavement that the city put in was, I know everyone appreciated it because it was a much nicer look and a much safer look. We didn't really open, we just opened a new entrance down by home plate, which is down directly across from Grand Slam Baseball Training Center. It seemed to be able to bring people in a more convenient way. They could walk right in and see the game right there. So that was great. We are continuing to participate in the Royal Oak Schools fun runs that all the elementary schools do. We'll be taking our mascot out there and kind of just getting more involved with the community. The Halloween Fest that the Parks and Rec Department is putting on, we'll be joining them. So we are going to just keep on hammering this thing out and keep on trying to get that park really busy again. There are concerns. We had a few concerns from the summer. We had about 4 different complaints. People falling in the stands, wet, slippery. They weren't too stable. There was a cement problem that was, I just noticed today, it was already fixed up by the Parks and Rec. And then the only other issue that little bit of a concern is the foul balls hitting cars on Coolidge Highway. So we've got a plan, and we've presented a little bit of a plan to the Parks and Rec, and we'll continue to do that with more details before we bug you guys about it. But what we're hoping to do is try to get some more netting put up so that it's going to protect, as the field gets more use, we're just trying to protect the fans, and we're trying to protect the cars driving by. So maybe I don't want you to drive by the park. So, but anyways, we'll definitely catch you in the spring with some tickets for all the commissioners, because we appreciate your support, and we got to do the same thing with Parks and Rec. We're just right now I'm kind of overwhelmed with work and everything with that ballpark. But thanks again for your support. Appreciate it.
Would it be cheaper just to get more home runs than more nets?
Yeah, hit them the right way. Correct. That would be probably the best thing to do. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sackett.
Hi, good evening.
My name is Constance Mays. I live at 1418 Longfellow, and I have lived there for 39 years. I also want to speak about Lawson Park. I don't think that it appears as though everything was thought out appropriately. I was not aware that the pavilion was going to be rented. I don't think it's an appropriate use for that park. It's a beautiful park, but there's some very serious concerns about the parking. On Irving, the cars are parked so close where they're not supposed to be parked that an emergency vehicle can't even get down the street. I am lucky that I don't live directly across from the porta potty. That would be disgusting, and that would bother me immensely. I'm lucky I'm on the south end. But I am also impacted by the parking there. I come home sometimes, and if there are games going on, I just hope and pray they're not parked in front of my garage. So thank you for listening, and I hope that there's some further planning for a more appropriate use of this park, and I would like to see the stopping of the rental of that pavilion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mays. Yeah.
Hello, my name is John Galetka on Royal Avenue in Royal Oak. Speaking to item number 8 tonight, approving $154,000 to provide electric power for the cooling system for the John Witt's temporary skating rink in the City Commons. As myself, I noted that Mike Rapinski of the Royal Oak Advisory Board is concerned about the temporary skating rink and impairment to the grass surface, requiring a refurbishing or replanting period in the spring and summer that will not allow the full use of the green space. Your choice to use the City Commons instead of the Farmers Market parking lot for the skating rink as last year will reduce the function of the park by destroying usage for things such as concerts on the lawn, as suggested with the construction of a raised stage at the west side of the site, but not utilized as such this last summer, relegating residents to sit on a green rug on Center Street after spending $6.5 million on the City Commons. The original proposal for the City Commons that was shown both on the city website and on the vinyl banners on the construction fence of the Henry Ford Bogie building showed a stage/band shell at one end across from the Veterans Memorial, intact in its original position. You fought against the veterans and you moved the memorial. However, there did used to be free city concerts alongside that memorial for years until you had moved it to the green carpet on Center Street. I want to urge you tonight to not place a 3-month skating rink in the City Commons Park and to keep the green space intact and functional. Using hydrocarbon-based electricity to cool a skating rink for 3 months is not the actions of what one would call a green city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galetka. Anybody else? Mr. Witz? Timer doesn't start till you start talking.
Is there a rate? Is my time to start? I'm here just on a couple of points. First and foremost, just want to thank the city and the chief and Aaron DPS and Royal Oak PD and everybody on the city team who helped make Arts Beats and Eats a success. We saw thousands of residents from just indication from bands, just asking. We try and find out who's there from the city, and just saw a lot of folks from Royal Oak and beyond just having a great weekend, and it could not be done without the great work of the city. It is just, again, continuing great experience, and everyone should be proud of hosting that many people without major incident. It's fantastic. We are projecting over $100,000 to local nonprofits from the event, and again, the event is taxpayer neutral thanks to the parking revenues that help offset costs. So it's a very positive situation, and it was just great to see everybody come out, for the weekend. So thank you, city manager and team. Thank you, chief. Thank you, DPS and Aaron, and thank you, deputy city manager. On the rink, I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments related to things that have been out there. One, we have talked to landscaping expert, and we have also spoken to the folks at Campus Martius Park. The transition is it's a one-time refurbishing of the sod on a one-year temporary basis that will take at most 30 days for the sod to hold and get in. We've heard that from experts, and the lawn will be replaced in quick time and will be there for summer activities. And we've seen it happen in Detroit annually. So I just want to state that for folks that have expressed that that would not be the case. On the financial side, just want to, again, correct the fact that the taxpayers, if the power is supported, which will support many events in the future of the city, then our projection as a taxpayer liability would be around $30,000 if our projections hold true. They're very conservative projections that range less than 10% of what Campus Martius Park does from a skating perspective. So I do not see the taxpayer commitment being, where it's been rumored to be or discussed to be, and certainly $500,000 is long when you consider the DDA's support, which is not the residential tax base, it is a business tax base, the sponsorship that we are committing, which is $100,000. And the last thing, this is a passion that we saw from Winter Blast, and this came from my heart. It is not a commercial venture. I'll be very clear that the benefit to us is the being able to use the rink, which is a significant benefit, but that exact same amount of money is being offset by the sponsorship that we are bringing to the project. So it's neutral on our side, and I just wanted to correct some things, and we'll be able to answer questions later. Thank you, and again, thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Witz. Okay. Anybody else out there? Anybody else for public comment? Going once, going twice. Okay, we are back up here. Moving forward to the consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull anything off the consent agenda? Yes, Ms. Prush, Commissioner Prush.
Let me get the correct number here. L and M.
L and M. Okay, anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. All right, so the consent agenda then would consist of City Commission meeting minutes, August 22nd, approval of Appointments Committee recommendations, approval of Appointments Committee rotation, approval of election worker pay increase, claims from August 26th, August 26th special pay, September 6th and September 9th, approval of purchase orders, declaration and authorization for disposal of surplus property, approval to purchase patrol rifles, approval of 22-23 winter maintenance agreement with the Road Commission of Oakland County, approval of license agreement use of Lincoln storage lot, award of contract cap 2305 construction engineering services 2023 concrete street repair improvements, receive and file the Parks and Recreation and Senior Services Advisory Board recommendation proposed Centennial Commons outdoor ice rink. Is there a motion? Commissioner Colo, second by Commissioner Douglas. Any discussion? I just want to say quickly, I want to commend DPS for moving forward on the storage situation over at Waterworks Park. Thank you for that. Anything else? All right, call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have a consent agenda, and Commissioner Perush, item L.
This is just a real quick acknowledgement of the fact that the Commission for the Arts took a hiatus over the COVID period in terms of the programs that it was developing and had been working on for years. And one of those programs was the Art Explored program, which brought privately created works of art into the city, primarily into public spaces outside. They were sculptures that went down the center of 4th Street. They were paintings and graphics that were attached to downtown buildings. There were some sculptures right in the downtown. We still have a number of those that are on exhibit, and they're part of the current Art Explorer program. We realized that there were a lot more public spaces in the community which could stand some additional artwork, some color, some flavor, so to speak, not only in the downtown, but also within city buildings, the new city hall, the new police department, the senior centers, and so on and so forth. So we put out another request for art from the artists in the community to submit photographs and descriptions, and we received, I believe, over 40 of those. Within those 40, we selected 5 which are going to be displayed publicly. All of them are interior pieces this year. We only had 1 or 2 that were submitted that were exterior pieces that would be out on a sidewalk or in a median somewhere. But they're all fabulous. They're listed. You have photographs here. And we're looking forward to having those displayed in the community. Related is the next item on the agenda, the big mural that is on the wall downtown of the Whale. You're all familiar with it. Was a license agreement for the city. The artist, who is still with us, is interested in donating that art to the city, so that will become part of our permanent collection, and it will stay on the wall. It is painted on steel, so it's pretty tough. It's not damaged easily by like some of the others that were constructed and put outside, so that will be part of our permanent collection. So the Commission of Arts is very excited about this ability to restart our public art program. You'll see these new 5 acquisitions on display somewhere. We haven't decided exactly where they're going to go yet. But also you should know that the Whale is now ours to keep. And we're really excited to carry this program forward now that COVID is over and we can do some more exciting things with art in the community. So I just wanted to highlight that. Nothing we need to do, just wanted to let everybody know about it. I guess there is a resolution in front of us which allows us to purchase these. So Susan is nodding. So I will move approval of this resolution for the purchase, which is item number L.
Motion by Commissioner Perush, second by Commissioner Douglas. I think there's someone from city staff who wants to speak on this.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. So my name is Jeremy Peckins. I currently work in the city manager's office as a graduate fellow. I've been honored to be able to be on the Arts Board, or the Commission for the Arts, and work with Susan and the members of that commission. We currently have 5 pieces that are going to be in the Art Explored program this year, and we're looking forward to finding places for those to be placed in the city. Yep.
Great, thank you. Any discussion up here? I feel like there's probably some kind of whales jokes to be made, but Mike's not here to make them, so.
Thank
God. Brandon, you can fill in if you got any good ones.
I'm sure it'd be a splash of pee.
Okay, there we go. Good enough, good enough. Any other discussion?
It's a whale of an idea.
Okay, got 2 jokes. Mike would be proud. All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, pass. We're going to have some art. Thank you very much for your work on this, and for the Commission for the Arts for all their work on it.
There is a second resolution for item number
Oh, I'm
M.
sorry. Please.
I shouldn't have merged the issues, but I will move approval of the resolution for item M.
Motion by Commissioner Perush, second by Commissioner Dubak. Any further discussion on that? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. All right, so now we're moving on to Michigan Liquor Control Commission licensed establishment request. Is this the chief?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and City Commissioners. The Royal Oak Police Department received a request from Kumakor LLC, who does business as Ito Ramen House, to change their current plan of operation. What they're requesting is to add an outdoor service area to the north side of their business adjacent to the 13-mile sidewalk. This proposed outdoor service area would be located on private property and have seating for 48 patrons. They've pledged that piped or canned music will not be played inside the outdoor service area. Additionally, they're also requesting to increase their interior seating from 83 to 84, and this change includes an increase from 9 seats to 12 seats at the sushi bar inside. Over the last year, we've responded to 2 calls for service, at this location, and none of which have been related to the sale of alcohol. And we don't feel that this will cause any additional strain on resources and are not opposed to this request at all.
Thank you. Any questions for the chief? Any motions, any discussions? Commissioner Douglas?
Yes, I'll move approval to their change of operations.
Motion by Commissioner Douglas, second by Commissioner Dubak. Any discussion? Okay, with that, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes. Okay, all right, now we are at item 8, approval for commencement of electrical work Centennial Commons outdoor ice rink. I think that might be our city manager.
Okay, great. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Macy and City Commission. Bringing back a final arrangement to install the electrical line to Centennial Commons. And I want to describe to you what this has the ability to do and what additional work needs to be done. So, as I described before, in working with DTE, if you remember at the last meeting I talked about there was different components. So we have this transformer that connects to a distributor that then connects to step-down equipment. What DTE indicated to us is that the separate transformer would have to be in close proximity to the distributor. They discouraged separating out the two because the cable, as they described, the cost would be astronomical. Well, since that meeting and working with an electrical contractor that works off of very specific specifications. So to say, what is the capacity of this wire that they propose to put in, and that it meets DTE's requirements. So the transformer, as I described, if this is approved, would be next to the master switch, which is just adjacent to the library. So this is on Troy Street. Then the cable then would be bored beneath and would be placed to a below ground type of manhole. There would still be the need for a distributor in the way that would work in relation to the proposed activity is that the promoter or provider of the event would rent this type of equipment. So instead of having this utility box that would be year-round, you'd still need a placement of such a box. This does not include that. So that's the obligation of the promoter to rent the piece of equipment and apparently has access to one. As I cautioned before, and I will caution again, it's likely that this work will be completed. DTE said that the transformer that we would be using is a unique type of capacity, and there's not much of a demand, and there's supposed to be some that are arriving. The contractor that's worked with Colasani, Motor City Electric, has indicated that they will either use refurbished or new equipment, and noting the time sensitivity of this. But nevertheless, that there could be whatever supply chain, labor issues, that sort. That is a possibility that it may not be completed in time. So in relation to the comments of the other uses that could occur later on, that is true, and that would be a sound reason for making that modification. Here's the little bit of the caveat for use for concerts is that once a distributor is put in, that you need a step-down box. So there's not only one piece of equipment, but two. And such equipment can be sought after. We could purchase it. It could be a portable sort of unit. You are looking at approximately 1 year from today. So by approval of this, to our music friends, I don't want this to be misleading, you're probably looking at not until the fall of 2023 or 24 would you have that equipment to be able to step down. So the immediate need is that this provides a higher powered electrical equipment that would go into the chillers and other equipment but would not have the ability to make a connection, kind of like a wall plug that we see here, 110 connection, that would still need the assistance of a generator unless the electrician that the promoter is working with has that type of step-down equipment. So I just wanted to add that caveat that there's things that can happen along the way, but it does give us the ability of other activities and things like that. When the supply chain issues are no longer an issue and we can gain one of those step downs, then most certainly we can use this as pretty robust sort of number of events and other activities and Centennial Commons. So this is presented to you that this is a contract modification with Colasani. There will be a charge that's associated with that is not included in here, but a nominal charge nevertheless. There are funds that are included in the Centennial Commons Park project. However, with that being said, the remaining amount of monies that have been set aside is for a restroom facility that we're still working on. We could spend the money out of that pocket of money, then look at the restroom facility that's been discussed as part of the ARPA program, and that we're pursuing that of where that could become eligible. We've discussed a much larger restroom facility along with this much smaller one to be placed in the middle of the park. So there's monies there, but if you don't want to talk about ARPA and don't want to talk about tapping into the remaining funds of the construction account, then we're looking at taking that out of the fund balance to pay for this project. So that could be in a forthcoming recommendation. We don't need to necessarily determine the source of monies at this time. It's a matter of proceeding with the contract to get the work done. So whether or not you want to tie bar that with the contract that's anticipated at the September 26th, or if we deal with this as a separate item, whatever you so desire, that we will carry that out from here. So I'm happy to answer any questions if there's anything that I didn't explain or clarify enough. And I'm going through a lot of information pretty quickly here. So,
Commissioner Bruce?
I'm having trouble picturing this. You say we need at least a distributor box.
Correct.
What does it look like?
Probably very similar to the pictures that I showed you 2 weeks ago. The difference is that this is a rental portable unit, and when the use is not there, the box goes away. So
Okay.
the only thing that remains is that there would be, and Mr. Flipsky could talk about the handhold, but there would be a latch that would be in the ground. That would be permanent, but obviously you wouldn't see it as greatly as when we were talking about building the substation, but it gives us that flexibility. So if I may, Madam Chair Pro Tem, to defer to Mr. Flipsky. So.
I'll allow it this time.
Yeah, you have that right, Manager Brake. In terms of describing that panel, as he was saying, for the purpose of what we need to do for the ice rink, there is a rental unit for that's capable of powering the larger equipment. Should we want to use that, as he was stating, for other smaller festival uses, we have priced some. They are accessible. As he said, there would be some time to get one. But we could have a portable unit that we would be able to use, we'd retain and be able to use it for any of our purposes. He also did correctly describe that. It's similar to what you think. Typically, they're like a stainless steel box, maybe 1.5 feet deep. For these smaller uses, it's not very large, but in any case, being that they're portable, they won't be inside at all. And then the two cables that run, the reason for two cables is so that we could potentially simultaneously run both of those things. We could have a high draw piece of equipment there, along with strung up lights and whatever else we might want for a festival. So they really, as proposed, these are good useful provisions for us in the future. I probably went beyond answering your question a little bit, but...
Well, and then you also mentioned a step-down unit.
Yes.
So is that what is that?
So what I was referring to is that, so the distributor is handling greater amount of electricity, that the draw that's needed for the compressors and other things that are associated with the ice rink is much higher wattage. The step down is the ability of, say, if there was tents and lights, things like that, that would use just a regular plug-in. If we look at the wall behind here, we have a variety of plugs and what you would use for other smaller electrical equipment that doesn't need that high volume of power.
So it wouldn't be a separate box, another box?
It would, but it would be on a temporary basis.
Correct.
So, Mr. Filipski, I'm just clarifying, I think that, so we're talking about the promoter renting a small box for this occasion, but I think you were saying we would be able to purchase the same box for our continued use. Is that what you were saying or not?
That's correct. There's two different step downs, actually. The first step down is from the main transformer from DTE that transforms it down just enough that it still has enough voltage to run the high power equipment. In order to run other things, you need another one. They don't need to be connected in series, but for their different purposes, you need essentially two different types of them. The smaller one, smaller step down, reduces the voltage even more than the first. Yeah.
Not for ice rink purposes, but for, let's say, concert purposes. You're still going to need those units in that location.
Yes, but being that they're portable, we would store them remotely and bring them out as needed. They wouldn't be a permanent fixture in the park.
Okay, so they wouldn't need an enclosure of any kind?
Correct.
You would just roll them back
That's right.
for the concert and then put them away someplace?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thanks. That helps me picture it.
Commissioner Beck?
Sure, I think it's been stated, but I just want to make sure it's 100% clear. Whether or not we move forward with the ice rink, because I think there's still some moving pieces that we're working on there, there is value in doing this as just a useful piece of infrastructure in the park to help us activate it in a number of ways in the future.
Yes. From a recreation perspective, it does open a lot of possibilities.
Okay. I think it's interesting. Like, it feels a little bit like an oversight that we never talked about this during the park planning process.
Who was on that committee?
Well, I heard Commissioner First in charge of it. It feels like an important piece of infrastructure, and given that I'm understanding, so there is no permanent infrastructure, no permanent aesthetic change to the park.
Other than a lid on the ground at
Like a
surface
manhole.
level, yeah.
Okay. Yes, individual. Yes.
I don't know where we're going.
Just a-hole.
Right. Moving on.
This makes sense. This feels like a worthwhile investment, especially if we can look at using ARPA dollars to plug the additional need for the bathroom, which we've agreed to do. I just think that there's tremendous possibilities in that park, and this really allows us to visualize whether it's the ice rink or not, what we can do there and how we can activate that as a real community gathering space.
Any more questions for, yes, Commissioner?
I have for Mr. Filipski or Mr. Brate. If that, like the step down is what we will need in the future if we're going to use this park for other entertainment purposes, do you have an anticipated cost for that if that's something that we're going to have to purchase down the road?
Yeah, preliminarily we found one. Here again, it is about a year out, but the rough price that we quoted was about $16,000, so not prohibitive.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Pillow?
Thank you. So, Mr. Filipski, right now, I mean, there is electric in the park, right? I mean, there's street lamps, or I guess sidewalk lamps, whatever we call them. But my understanding, they're about 20 amps, right? I mean, there's not high voltage to it. So if you, like my Keurig takes about 16 amps at home, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you plug enough, and it's all part of many of them are part of the same circuit. So even though
even better,
you could, for what we might need for a festival, it might not be sufficient.
Because I know that at Juneteenth this year they plugged a extension cord into Henry Ford to get power for the audio setup. I've been told. So I think that adding more power to this park is no matter what we use it for, this seems like something that's kind of lacking right now. Thanks.
Okay, Okay, so before we get to any motions, it does feel to me like this is tied to the ice rink project, and the promoter is here, and I'd like to give him a chance to say a few words on how this will work and answer questions from us.
I guess I would just start with an agreement and a clarification just to make sure on the power. There's a transformer, and I'm going to look partially at Aaron just to make sure I have this right. He has this right. There's a transformer from DTE. There's a step down from Motor City Electric that both go by the library. And then we would bring in a transformer that goes at the park that would temporarily provide the power. Is that how we're presenting that? Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So 2 boxes by the library, 1 by the park. The size of the transformer by the park that would be temporary, and we can put a fence around it, et cetera, is in the 2.5 by 7 foot range. So it is not very large. And again, that is temporary, and we'll have the ability to power not just the rink, but to put in a lighting display and support the concession trailers, the lighting where people can buy tickets, etc. The change, one thing by the city looking at this as an infrastructure improvement, which we would definitely concur with, it really changes some aspects of what we're proposing. And one thing we would not need from the city is any upfront taxpayer dollars other than the DDA funding. Between the sponsorship and the DDA funding, that does provide a little bit of a shortfall, but we would absorb that against the revenue from the rink. And again, I think using very conservative projections, you'd have $30,000 of our investment if the numbers were met, and you'd have around $180,000 if nobody showed up to skate. That would be the worst case scenario. Again, those numbers were based very conservatively, and there really could be, in my estimation, much more of a likelihood of a positive gain from the rink versus a taxpayer investment, and that is just based on the numbers at Campus Martius Park, us projecting to be in the 10% range of those numbers, only 10%, and our history with winter programming and being able to bring people out to events, I think is a very positive indicator that those projections are likely. And I will just say that, a lot of times that we've brought stuff here, there's been a risk or situation, and historically, we've come through with delivering people promotion and positivity, and that's what we see happening here. And I'm definitely available for questions. Don't want to say much beyond that.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Douglas.
Thank you, and so happy to see you so much more mobile than you were the last time we saw you here.
Thank you.
Great progress.
It feels really good.
So talk a little bit about the numbers at Campus Martius, or what you know about municipal outdoor skating rinks in general. What kind of revenue do they generate from what sources?
So the revenue I got from the person who runs the rink was in their prime season, and this is from skating fees and skate rentals, which would all go to the city. They do between $180,000 and $200,000 per week in prime season. And again, we're projecting $155,000 of revenue in 12 weeks. So this was presented, and people have expressed what's the reality here. I just see a great optimism with doing better than our numbers, but the information I do have from a very reliable source is what their gross revenue is on skate rentals and skating fees. And we would be charging the same, $10 to skate and $5 for skate rental. And again, there were questions about promotions for city residents. We're definitely talking about weekday evening promotions that could be sponsored or otherwise, but there would definitely be, 4 times a month minimum of free skating opportunities, and that could be 8. I mean, those are sponsorable opportunities where residents skate for free, and we can offset taxpayer involvement by local businesses sponsoring those free days. So I think there'll be some very favorability on not only benefit to residents, but also, helping with getting more sponsorship than we currently project.
So in your services to manage the skating operation include marketing. Talk a little bit about how you would attract customers, skaters, to the rink.
So I think there'd be 2 avenues that we would go with. One would be Facebook advertising, which we've had a lot of success with recently at our events from the summer, Rock and Rides, Taco Fest, and Arts Beats and Eats, which we engaged first time, and those would be targeting nearby communities. They would not be necessarily a regional promotion. Berkeley, Huntington Woods, Clawson, Troy. I mentioned Troy, it's my hometown. I know they're closer communities, Ferndale, Pleasant Ridge. We would hit those zip codes. We would also use radio pretty heavily, with that. And we have the leverage. One of our sponsors is a Soaring Eagle Water Park, and Soaring Eagle historically has helped leverage their advertising value for our other events. And, we're projecting that $15,000 on radio could deliver us a promotion in the $75,000 of $80,000, which we would probably use 3 to 5 local radio stations. The other thing we would do is publicity. We have relationships with local TV stations. I think, again, tying this into a tree lighting event or giving some board space to a radio station like Channel 7 does in Detroit with Campus Martius. Maybe it's Channel 4 here, or Fox 2, that we exchange logos on the billboards of the rink in exchange for television advertising and coverage. And I think it's likely that we'll have TV stations out here, I think between 4 and 8 times, prior to we hit Christmas, as far as coming out and doing media stories. We can do promotions with local skating clubs, kids, other residents, to create activities. I think we've shown creativity in making these television stories interesting at our other events, and I think trading away some signage to media partners, I think, would generate a nice campaign. We budgeted $20,000 for marketing on this, and I think the Soaring Eagle will help us leverage more, and I would project a $75,000 to $90,000 promotional campaign with the hard dollars that we have. And so one other point. In the proposed deal we have with the city, if things are going very well and we run into a slower period in January to February when advertising is extremely cheap, we would have the ability in a contingency, if we're meeting the revenue numbers that we projected, to invest that into our slower months. And again, I also think that if we're just having a slower month and do moderately, that the stations will be supportive just based on the advertising relationships we have. The media has been, and again, with Winter Blast, we get such great value because there's just not a lot of spending going on in the January, February time frame. So I think in the month and a half that we would be slower, I think there'd be a lot of stations that would come to support the rink.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Witz? Okay, thank you, Mr. Witz. Okay. Who's going to go first? Commissioner Dubak?
Conversation around the ice rink aside, because the issue pending before us is the electrical work, which would certainly facilitate the ice rink, among other things. As I've said, as we've heard from staff, it's an important piece of infrastructure, really help us activate the park in a wide variety of ways in coming years. So this one-time investment will yield decades of value for our residents. So given that, I will move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Dubak. Second by Commissioner Kolo. Discussion? Commissioner Perush?
I seriously believe that the consideration of this issue and the voting on this issue is essentially tied to the ice rink itself and the contract for the ice rink itself. The costs for this work, $119,000 is the estimated cost that City Manager Brake gave us, and then the additional $16,000 for the distributor, that's about $135,000. If we're going to help to recoup any of that money this year through revenues, it's going to depend on the language in the contract. And so I would make a motion that we postpone voting on this until we consider both the contract and this at the same time.
Motion by Commissioner Perush, second by Commissioner Douglas. Okay, discussion on the motion to postpone. Commissioner Dubuck. Oh wait, sorry, Commissioner Perush. You. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, motion maker.
I don't disagree with the spirit of the motion. I guess I think we should be working to establish the most favorable contract to the city possible, regardless of this purchase, ensuring that the vendor is kept whole, but that we are covering costs and perhaps even seeding a fund to cover costs for next year. So the goal of the contract should be to maximize value for the taxpayers, regardless of if we do this purchase. I think this stands alone. I think we should do it whether or not we do the ice rink because of the value that we can get out of it, the time that it's going to take, because we have the dollars on hand in the Centennial Commons Fund right now, and the ability to backfill that with ARPA dollars to ensure that we can see through the rest of our plans. That may not be the case next year at this time. So it feels timely, the dollars are there, there's clear value. So for that reason, I oppose the motion because I don't think we have to tie the two together.
Commissioner Kolb.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I agree with Commissioner Dubuck here. A couple of things. One, we've bid this work out now also. This has been opened and the pricing has been discussed. The pricing does not get better than it is today. The pricing only goes up from here as contractors have now seen what price, there is. And over, the course of the last handful of years, construction prices have only gone up as time has gone on. So at this moment in time, having the money inside of the Centennial Commons Fund, this seems to be the best use if our goal is to put power into the park. And we talked about, I know we've talked a lot about an ice rink tonight, but we also did talk about having concerts out there, about having celebrations out there, DJs, kids activities. I mean, there are countless recreational activities that we can add to the park. So I'm not looking at an ice rink tonight. I'm looking at how we can get power to a park, which I'm sure was value engineered out back in April of 2020 when the world was ending, and we're thinking about what's been to the park. There just wasn't. Who knew what property taxes would look like, and where we could spend money. So I think it was wise probably not to include it back then. But now with these funds available, especially if we can make the restroom into an ARPA expenditure, that frees up a good amount of funds that we can use for this electric. And I guess I'm now more concerned that prices will continue to go up if we are to delay this. So I'm looking at the future use of the park tonight. I'm looking at the recreation that we can provide, not for the ice rink, but for all the other activities. So yes, they are two items that go together to an extent, but there's just so much more beyond it. So I'm going to not support Commissioner Perush's motion tonight.
So I have a question for Mr. Loyal quickly. So when we talked about how these two are tied together, because when we talked about the ice rink contract, whatever that was, we ended up with three contingencies. The sponsorship amount, DDA helping out, and then also this approval of the electrical. And so I guess so the approval of the electrical, there was a different number at that time that we were considering, and so now there's a new number, but we're almost sort of tearing it away and saying, using it as a standalone item. But if we approve this, are we essentially saying the third contingency is fulfilled? Like where does that put us in stance to the original contract?
With respect to the resolution that you all adopted, I think the contingency, and I do have the document in front of me, well, underneath the table if I can get it, but if I remember correctly, that was it was passed provided that DTE could extend direct electric power to the ice rink. There wasn't anything to me, that resolution says, do they have the capability to do it in time for the event? The costs weren't necessarily built in your resolution. Those costs came about later as we started exploring DTE what it would take to extend the electricity. There was not a financial number attached to that resolution.
So I guess my memory of the discussion was that we weren't sure how expensive it was going to be. So what you're saying is that if it ended up being like $10 million, but they could do it, it would still be okay? I mean, we knew they could do it, right? I mean, everything's possible. Now I made it reach under the desk.
It is dependent on the actual language of the resolution. I do have that with me as far as what this commission approved. Yeah, your resolution only said it's contingent on direct connection power from DTE. Certainly, the cost consideration that came afterwards is something within your discretion. We still do not have 100% guarantee that the power will be connected. There's always a possibility it may not. And so you're in a position where you don't really have a definitive answer based on what you passed. That doesn't mean that you cannot consider that now. I just wanted to relay what you have adopted, that was not part of what you adopted back then.
Okay.
But it's certainly relevant in your decision tonight.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Poosh.
I just think that if we approve this tonight, we're significantly weakening our bargaining ability to get good language in the contract for a whole variety of issues, and there's a lot of unresolved issues. Because if all of a sudden, guess what, we have electric, then I think, and Mr. Witz is here, and I apologize for bargaining in public here, but I think it gives him a bargaining position to be able to say, well, you've approved the electric, you're going to spend $135,000, therefore, you're going to have this program go forward in terms of the ice rink in order to recoup any kind of revenue at all to offset those costs. We may be able to pay for it with other funds, we may not. But I think it significantly weakens our bargaining position in terms of getting a final contract. I agree that having electric in the park will be an excellent thing. We'll be able to use it for a lot of other uses. It was something that was too expensive to consider putting in when the park was originally designed and constructed. But at this point in time, it is being pushed because of the ice rink, and the ice rink is being pushed because of Mr. Woods. So, and he is the one that's going to be the party to the contract. So I really think it diminishes our bargaining position to go forward to get a good contract for the taxpayers if we approve this tonight. I'm not saying that we don't approve this. I'm just saying we've got to have a good contract negotiated first before we approve both of them.
Commissioner Douglas.
Mr. Brake, and Mr. Leal, when do you anticipate bringing a contract with John Woods Enterprises to the commission?
September 26, your next
at
commission.
Our next meeting.
Yes.
Mr. Brake, does the quote from Colasani, how long is their bid valid?
I would say, but I have to defer to Mr. Flipsky, but let's put it this way. It would not become void if you waited just an additional 2 weeks.
So we can wait 2 weeks
yes.
on this?
Yeah.
And still have the opportunity to consider this at this price in the context of the overall contract negotiations?
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Hunt?
Would there be a concern with any supply chain issues if we wait those 2 weeks?
I'm not aware of that. We've had enough conversations with both DTE. I've lost count the number of telephone calls that I've made. So both them as well as Motor City Electric, they know this is a high-profile project. So if you delay it, we'll be on the phone with them first thing tomorrow morning and say that, we'll bring final resolution in 2 weeks. And so, because even if you approved it tonight, it's not like the work is going to be done tomorrow. They have to schedule that. So it's just, there's a great anticipation. So it's, in the grand scheme of things, I do not anticipate that hurting the process, but I'll defer to whatever the collective decision is. So.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cole.
So November 14th is 9 weeks from tonight. Pushing 2 weeks leaves 7 weeks for construction. So that is a large amount of time in terms of having someone mobilize. Because it's not just our schedule that we're working on. We are working on 3 different contractors: DTE, Power, Cords. Mr. Brake has been not shy about talking about supply chain issues for the last month. So that could be an issue. So I would be worried that if we delay, once again, this is not just about power in the park for an ice rink, but if that is one of our goals also, delaying tonight could potentially put that out of contention. So if we think that we're going to want power in the park in the future, if we think that this is a good idea, I will continue to vote for the power tonight, and then we can happily use it for the ice rink also. If we delay, I think we're looking at potential where we're going to spend this money now and then not see a use of it until maybe next fall when that step down is available for the lower use, because I don't know if we'll get it in time for the winter. So if this is something that we value, if we want to go ahead and get power to the park anyways, I'm comfortable moving forward with it tonight.
So to me, Commissioner Colo, that just highlights that it is in fact tied to the ice rink, that the timing and everything about it. I mean, it's just hard. It's been hard for me to separate this because I think this is something that would be really useful in the park, and yet no one brought us this any other time. Like, we've had this park and no one said, hey, we should throw $130,000 of this to get electrical in there. There are good reasons to have it in there, but right now it just feels to me like it's inextricably tied with this project, that those two are one and the same. So that's sort of my take on it, but it seems like we may be end of discussion. Anybody else? Okay, so we're voting. Oh, yes, Commissioner Dulac.
I mean, I guess I would just add, they're linked one way in that if we don't move forward, it could submarine our ability to do the ice rink, right? But we know we want to move forward with electricity in the park either way. So in delaying, we could be inadvertently predetermining that the ice rink can't happen, and we're not ready to make that decision today. So moving forward, as we, I think, all agree, we should with this electrical installation, still allows us the option while doing a thing we all know we want to do anyway. So I maintain my opposition to the motion.
So I'll just respond that until last week, I didn't know that I wanted to do this. It was not on my agenda that we were going to spend $130,000 this year on electrical. And in fact, when this was last before us as a contract, I think people at this table were quite leery, including you, about the amount we were spending to make this ice rink happen. And now there's an additional cost that we're putting on top of that. Yes, it will be useful for other things, but we were considering that all as one at the time. And so it just feels a little odd to me that we've now separated this out as if we were going to do it beforehand, when that never had been the case. I guess it feels to me that saying that it can't happen if we wait 2 weeks from now, it's just catastrophizing this. It feels like that's the way it is all the time. If we don't say yes right now when we don't have all the information, it won't happen. And I feel like we need all the information to move forward. So, anyone else? Commissioner Colo? No. Okay, we're voting on the motion to postpone until September 26th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So that fails. Motion fails.
Yeah.
Is that 3-3?
3-3. So now we're back to the original motion. Right?
Right.
Okay, further discussion on the original motion. Okay, so the original motion is to approve, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No. So that passes. Okay. All right, so we're finished with that. Moving on to the final, the review of informational letter to registered voters. Turn myself up again. Review of informational letter to registered voters. That's Mr. Brake.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Pro Tem Mayor. I'm going to hand out, there was a letter that was included in the packet, and there was also another letter that was given to you. This is a repeat of the letter that was included in the packet. It's just a one page.
Okay.
So the only change in here is highlighted in yellow that was suggested by Commissioner Perush, and have included that in there. We also have a different version, which is excellent, and I see use for both of them. What my recommendation is that having a succinct, short letter to gain attention, that for individuals that want more information to go to our website and to seek that information. This is part of an overall effort, as I mentioned before, that we have the Insight magazine that was on the back cover. We have Royal Oak Today. There's other information that we are pushing out. So this letter, like I said, is the recommendation. However, the other one that was put together is excellent as well. And I think that's geared for an audience that wants to seek out, that wants to know the detailed information. And I see making that made immediately available on the website, and it also gives us language that we can use in the Royal Oak Today. There's an article that we need to write, and that will be the basis of that article. Now, to let you know, the timing of Royal Oak Today does not come out until October. So what we're really pressed up against is to get this information out before the absentee ballots go out. So this is of most critical nature to get this out quickly. So in the past, at least, I asked for authorization to simply authorized to write the letter, and this is a little awkward that we're actually getting into the letter itself, but wanted to show you the example of this. And in my view, the previous letter that was sent out on the library millage being very short and succinct, that captures the reader's attention, that individuals that are busy in their lives and may not want to know the particulars, but give me the short version. What is this about? The elevator speech. And so that's how that's presented. Now, not to disregard the request that was made, give me specifics. Well, the specifics I can tell you right now in the budget document, in the CIP that I mentioned before, there's $6 million worth of projects that DPS through the Recreation has submitted on a number of construction projects of improvements that get into very specific parks, improvements to basketball courts, to repair play structures and benches, and there's any number of things. I have a little bit of reluctance in the road millage. It's a little different when you say, how soon is my street going to be paved? What we don't get into is the timing of this. What we don't want to do is to put the Parks and Rec Advisory Board in a position that the information predicates in what order things get done. Rather, through the Parks and Rec Master Plan, through a variety of information, there's any number of priorities that have been identified. And now this is a means of going about that, in addition to also leveraging local dollars to go after funds through DNR, through other grants, foundations, other things where there has to be a local match. So we have to look at out of the Parks and Rec millage where we can really leverage the $500,000 that we have set aside for capital improvements. Switching over to the senior services, that we have the group that's been working tirelessly that will identify very specific needs. And so I know by the time that as we approach later on in September and October, that we can get specific examples. There will be specific examples on both of these. But the notion is that to get this information out quickly, to say this is what it's about, and to please vote on November 8th. But again, my intent is to use both letters. But defer to the collective wisdom of the group, and if you want a longer document, so be it, but this is my professional recommendation to you. So,
Commissioner Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. So, Mr. Brake, thank you for that. So the second document is one that I helped put together. I do point out it's 4 pages, which is the same length as the one we sent out for last year's November ballot. When I look at getting information out to voters, right? Yes, there are some cases where short and sweet is good, but these are 2 millages. These are 2 proposals, and I think that we need a little bit more than 1 page to really get across the intent of what, why. I think it's important for voters to know why we're asking for this money. So I think that moving, with the second letter, we're looking, and let's please edit it, have your department edit it, look at it. I think this is just a rough draft. Anyone who's ever seen my writing will tell you I'm a terrible writer, so there's a lot to be done. But I think that what we start off here is just we tell very factual statements, Let's tell the voters that here's last year's millage rate. Here are 3 millages that we dropped off. I don't think many voters know that we're actually losing, we've dropped off almost 0.6 mills this year. I think that's an important fact when considering new villages. I think that's important to tell people how many parks we have, the 350 acres of parkland, and then what we could potentially do with them. I think that's the biggest thing, is let people know that we do have $6.5 million in unfunded capital improvement programs right now for parks, that this millage will continue to help. That the senior center, senior services that we plan to increase. I think that this is an instance where a little bit more information goes a long way, because the purpose of this is to educate a voter. So someone can read this and make an educated decision. So I think more information in this case is better. Thanks.
I'm just going to quickly say, because I can't remember if Mr. Brake said this at the beginning of his, but there was a second letter that was sent just to the commission. So we're talking about 2 different letters here, but there's only one attached to the agenda, the one that Mr. Brake.
That is correct. There was a hard copy that was passed out at the very beginning of the meeting of that second letter that's not in the packet.
Oh, okay. So it was to the people who were present. Oh, no, to me.
Only to those on the dais.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying, is that we have access to 2 letters, but there's only 1 letter on the agenda, which may cause some confusion.
Correct. Yeah. That's the downside.
So there's one page letter, that's the one on the agenda, and then there was a longer letter that was proposed with more details that Commissioner Cole just discussed.
Right.
Okay, Commissioner Prush?
Yes, I agree that as much information that you can get out to the taxpayers is better. Unfortunately, I don't think a whole lot of people are going to read 4 pages. And I know that there was a 4-page letter for the ballot issues last year, but last year we had charter amendments and ordinance amendments, and it was significantly more complicated in order to describe the differences between all of those, and I think the 4 pages was necessary. In this instance, I think it would be possible to include a lot more of the information that is in the 4-page letter into a smaller letter. Given the way it is laid out, and given the way the typeface is used, and so on and so forth, I think it would be possible, for example, to include a lot more information into like a 2-page letter, just a back and a front of 1 piece of paper. I think we could include a lot more information about how the millages are declined or been eliminated this year. I think we could talk a little bit more about some of the aspects of both the senior services and Parks and Rec that might be included or at least considered. We could include the fact that there's $600 million worth of things on the wanted list, so to speak. A lot of facts that are in the 4-page letter, I think, could be included into a letter. I think 4 pages is too long. I think 2 pages is reasonable, and I think it would work. So that's how I would do it. And there is nothing worse than trying to draft a letter by committee. So I don't want to get into content. I don't want to say, well, this should go in and this shouldn't go in and this should come out. But I'm talking about size, and I'm talking about how much patience people are going to have to read information that is going to be coming to them. This is a big election year. It's not only city issues, it's state issues. Voters are going to get barraged with stuff. And I don't think they're going to have any patience with 4 pages, but I think they will have patience with 2, and so that would be my recommendation.
Commissioner Hunt?
I would agree. I think the shorter the better, but the more information the better. And if this, you said this is going into Royal Oak today, it's going to be a printed.
Yeah, what I mentioned is that much of the content, it would be changed to be written in more of an article type of style. But at least the Royal Oak today, that publication has much more in-depth articles. And so for people that are seeking that sort of information, it's appropriate in that context. My worry is what I was echoing and Commissioner Perush is that we all have busy lifestyles. Obviously, all of us are excited. You know, if we were given a 100-page document, we'd read every word of it. Well, all right. So, but
4 pages.
Okay, all right. 4 pages is the limit. But, Commissioner Hunt, I agree with you. It's just we don't want to lose people. That short attention span. What did they say that because of the pandemic? I think people's the amount of attention that they give is even shorter than it was pre-pandemic. So honestly, we have to make that informed elevator sort of information. I want to take the word pitch out of that. So because again, we can't advocate, but nevertheless, we want people to have good information that they can base that decision. But certainly we can make that work. And by the way, cost is not a consideration. It's rather nominal if we did go with 4-page. So don't let that discourage you. But I'm truly thinking that but making this that someone will want to read the entire document. And again, I say this respectfully of the information that was put together. So again, keep in mind we have different readers and put that into context in each of those situations. So
and like Commissioner Bruce stated, I don't want to quibble about what should go in and what shouldn't go in, but I think when people look at something like this, they want to know exactly how is it going to affect me, like right off the bat. So giving some sort of estimate in here of the average, tax will go up $30, $60, whatever. I think that's just my thought.
Yeah, and we do have, if it isn't up already, it is. I'm looking at Ms. Davids. So if you go on the election webpage, there is a scroll down that, you can see your address and how much will that cost my individual property. And again, for information purposes, and you all know this, but I'm speaking to the audience, is that there's a millage that it's expired. There was the solid waste millage that was decreased as part of this budget. So, and as mentioned in letter version number 2, is that the difference is 0.3 of a mil. But in reality, with the Headley rollback, it's about the same. So.
Okay, so I just went to that page and it still shows us the public safety and the refuse mills instead of this one. So if we could, I'm on it right now. So I went through the elections to the millage calculator.
Did you go to millage 2022?
Through the elections, it really sucks. Yeah, that's where I am. So elections.
Oh, okay. You're at the wrong page.
So the millage calculator on that one needs to be updated, the link.
Yeah.
I didn't know that existed. The millage calculator I'm talking about is at WROK.gov/millage, or you could do millage.
Okay. Oh, I see.
So, but for quality control, that was a good catch. So
if it were up to me, we'd edit this by committee.
We'll get that taken care of. So I guess bottom line, as mentioned before, not writing at the dais, but If you give me authorization to move that forward, you'll see a copy of this before we get that done. This is valuable discussion here, and I appreciate the dialogue, honestly, from the dais as well. That's just very helpful that, we need to get good information out there that people can rely on. And as Commissioner Hunt has said, what's in it for me is, really taking it from that perspective, from the reader's perspective, and so providing that good information. So,
Commissioner Douglas, do you have some?
Yeah, from a policy governance point of view, this is completely a staff decision. We have our opinions here at the table, and I'm confident that Mr. Brake and the staff will take those into consideration, but I cede control over the decision to staff.
So this is that policy argument we have all the time.
Yeah.
But Mr. Brick, I think I just heard you say that we will be seeing the letter before it's finalized.
Yes.
And some of the feedback I heard from Commissioner Persh, and I wasn't sure exactly how well this was echoed, but I want to echo it, that I think 2 pages, front and back, maybe 1 per millage, and including that information as discussed about the exact amount of the millage change, including the millages that have dropped off, and the amount that it costs per household, and then also some of the information about what will be provided, which I think is in the letter already, but I think there were some good examples as well in the additional letter.
So,
yeah, Commissioner Douglas, sorry.
Yeah, again, not telling staff what to do, but I wouldn't make one millage on one side and the other millage on the other.
Fine.
Lead with the big stuff and then
Fine.
journalistic.
Although she's not telling you what to do. She's not.
Nope.
Commissioner Dubak.
Yeah, I'm inclined to say that a little bit more information, populating 2 pages, is probably worthwhile. There's some good additions in what Commissioner Colo provided, although I'd be concerned a lot of the language reads like advocacy. And who is the arbiter of that? Is that
Mr. Leal?
Okay.
Yes.
So that doesn't need to go in any higher authority. It's just a sound legal reading of it.
That is correct.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Because I get a little concerned. I think it's a statement of fact that our rate stays essentially the same, but as we know, with headline and inflation, I don't want to imply to people that they're going to see the exact same tax bill next year, regardless of this millage. So I don't know how we create clarity around that without convoluting the issue. I don't want to be misleading people as to what they're going to be seeing on their tax.
Agreed.
So I think that's worthy of consideration. But I love that. I think even the listing of all the park assets, I think that provides some impact as far as the scope of the city's financial responsibility to maintain these things. And I think it's a statement of fact that we have never had a dedicated protecting funding source for our parks. So I think that's definitely worthwhile to include. And otherwise, I'll leave it to you.
Okay. All right.
You just hear my peppy optimism when you read it. That's what it is.
Is that what we're hearing?
It's also in the first person.
Commissioner Colo.
There's
a lot of we.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, there's no vote on this, right?
I just want to make sure, though, we'll have time. You'll give us before it's going to the printer so that someone can read it.
We'll give you 5 minutes. No,
sounds about
we'll
right.
give you time.
Okay, we've reached the end of our agenda. Notwithstanding anything for the betterment of our fine community, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Dubak,
Support?
second by Commissioner Douglas. Any discussion?
Not tonight.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. We are adjourned. Do I gavel again? I think I want to.